everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be really exciting today because I am going to be talking about recreating some pieces of jewelry that enslaved women would have worn during the 18th century. I'm really excited because I was commissioned to do this project and I really wanted to bring you guys along and share some really deep history and fashion history and really dive into making some of these pieces and share the process of recreating them. So let's do this. So when we think about 18th century fashion stuff, a lot of the time, Marie Antoinette comes along, we think about the powdered wigs and the ornate jewelry and the really incredible fashion and stuff like that, and that's all very relevant, but we don't always think about, okay, so what would enslaved people worn? Were they wearing jewelry? What were they doing to keep their own fashion history alive? So, during the 18th century, when the slave trade was going very strong, a lot of enslaved Africans carried their cultures with them. And a lot of the times, that resulted in carrying jewelry with them because that's the smallest thing. A lot of the time it was adorned in their hair or around their wrists, or necklaces, bracelets, anklets, things like that, that were able to stay on their body for the long voyage and pass through without a care. Many of them adorned themselves with jewelry made out of shells or beads or copper or coins. These pieces a lot of the time weren't just decorative, they were personal, they were spiritual, and they were resistance and they were survival. Now, in order to do this project, I had to do a lot of research, and finding out what enslaved people wore was a really difficult thing because no one kept records like that because those things weren't important to white people at the time. I have a couple of really great books that kind of dive into this topic more, and they're right here. I absolutely adore these books and they helped me so much for this project. Particularly this book. It is called The Archaeology of Clothing and Bodily Adornment in Colonial America by Deanna Lauren. And this really puts some insight into not only just Native people and what they wore, but also Africans and what they wore as well. So in this book, I would really love to read a couple of passages that really go into fashion and the thought process during the 18th century and early colonial America. It is important to consider that in the colonial period, notions of taste and fashion were not only important for European elite, they were also important for Native peoples, enslaved Africans, children, and working people who lived in the colonies. Dress was everything. That's how you show your status, that's how you show your culture, that's how you show your religion, and it resonated with every single human being on the planet. Like, everyone had their own style, everyone had their own thing, and that's such an important segue into survival and wanting to look presentable and show off what you have. Now, while people were really interested in showing how to express themselves through jewelry and fashion, all those things, there were such things in place called sumptuary laws. And I'd love to read from this section about them so we can learn a little bit together. The logic of sumptuary laws was simple. They were intended to restrict lavish dress in order to curb extravagance, protect fortunes, and visually mark the distinctions between levels in society. Clothing connotated status, gender, moral conduct, and education, and most individuals made clothing choices that were influenced by dress codes, social expectations, occupational necessities, status, and economics. So when we're thinking about all these things coming together, we really dive into the fact that status was everything. You have to know your place, and you have to be aware of the fact that if you step out of your place, you're going to be shunned, you're going to be looked down upon, and you are going to be put back into your place. Now, when it came to jewelry, the white colonists really didn't have the same notions of culture with jewelry. So when you had enslaved Africans come in and they had bracelets or hair jewelry or necklaces, all the different things, they didn't assign the same amount of personal value that someone of an African culture might have with their jewelry. So a lot of the times jewelry was overlooked. They dismissed cowrie shells and like little coins and things like that as whatever, when they had really deep cultural significance to enslaved Africans. And in a way that was a form of resistance for enslaved women, because it held such cultural significance and personal significance for them. And also it was visual discourse. It was a way to communicate self with those who understood the visual meaning of the adornment that they were wearing. Now, once again, these things were not documented very well. And of course, anyone who's coming off of an enslaved ship or being sold at auctions, all those things, they're not really taking records of what they're wearing or anything like that. So it's super duper hard to find evidence and actual descriptions of the jewelry that they were wearing. But we do have Runaway Ads, and that's where this book comes in really great handy. It's called African Americans in Early North Carolina, and it really dictates all the different types of runaway ads during that time period. Runaway ads were the only time that people used actual descriptions of the enslaved people that were running away. And a lot of the times, of course, enslaved people would bring their most valuable possessions with them, and that included jewelry for a lot of women. So I found records that showed enslaved women who brought with them necklaces and earrings and rings and bracelets, all different types of adornments. And sometimes these things were gifted from enslavers for whatever reason, but a lot of the time they were homemade and passed through networks and sold and, bartered through the enslaved community. So after all the information, I'm going to be trying to recreate a few pieces. We don't have any extant pieces left over from the 18th century that I can take inspiration from, unfortunately, but I think I have an idea of what I want and how I'm going to make these things. Luckily, the person who commissioned this from me, they sent me photos of beads that were found at an actual dig site on a plantation, and that gave me a lot of really great inspiration and what to create for these pieces of jewelry. So I'm really excited. I will be creating 3 pairs of earrings, 3 bracelets, and 3 necklaces. So let's do that. But first, I need to go to the store and get a few supplies for this, so I'm going to take you along with me, and let's go and see what we can find together. Alright, I secured some goodies. I'm so excited. I got a few things online, but I really needed a couple of pieces that I just couldn't find, or just I couldn't find fast that would arrive fast enough, or just didn't look good online. So I'm so happy. I went to my local bead shop and I found some really, really great things. Next, I'm gonna go to another store and get some actual jewelry making supplies. So let's do this. Okay, so I got the next set of goodies, all the tools and stuff I need, and the backings and all the things I need for this project. That's it for today. I will be back tomorrow because I have things coming in the mail and I don't have anything to make yet, but I can't wait to show you guys all the things I found and tell you a little bit more about these pieces. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so it is next day and I have got all my beads together. I have everything I need for the most part, and so we're gonna start creating. Now I'm really excited because I found some really similar looking beads to what I was given a reference photo for, and I'm so excited to recreate these things. Now remember, there's only a little amount of evidence that we have of what jewelry actually looked like. There's some really vague descriptions. Sometimes you can find some paintings, but for the most part, I'm just gonna really be going off of what I have learned and what I think would be a great artistic interpretation of it. But when I was doing my research, I did find some runaway ads that had some really great descriptions. Well, pretty vague descriptions, but descriptions nonetheless, and I wanted to share them here with you guys so you can see kind of what I'm building off. The description reads, a new Negro woman who ran away in New York in July of 1763 had beads around her arms and neck. Saltwater slave women Chloe and Candace, along with 3-year-old boy Jack, all wore beads when they ran away from Rock Creek in Maryland in 1770. Another one says, an enslaved woman originally from Maryland who ran away from Bourbon County, Kentucky, wore stone bobs in her ears of pale blue and white color, hung with silk thread. Another one says, in Hanover Town in Virginia, wore silver earrings set with white stones. So bobs was like a very common expression for like earrings and stuff like that. So there's like several different descriptions going on here, and I think I'm gonna go with a couple of them, specifically the ones with like stones hanging in their ears or something like that. I have wires I'm gonna put these stones on, and I think that they'll come out looking pretty good. So I really found some really great things. Those are all fantastic descriptions, and I'm obviously just gonna kind of be going off of my own artistic interpretation as well, but I really would like to show you the beads and the different things I found. So from the archaeological dig that they sent me photos from, I have a couple things that look very, very much the same from them. So a lot of the beads that they found at the archaeological dig were of blue, red, green, or black color. And they also had a lot of tubular shaped beads. So I have these bone beads that I found that are a beautiful tubular shape and cream colored, and I'm super excited about them, as well as these. These are stone and black and just look almost exactly like a couple of the photos that they sent. And then these red coral ones as well are very tubular shaped, and I'm super happy with how they turned out, and as well as these jade tubular beads, and I'm just so happy with these finds. We also found a lot of red beads. So this is red coral, which was super popular at the time. And then my pride and joy is I found these beads at the shop, and it is literally an exact replica of the one of the beads that they sent me from the archaeological dig. So I am just so happy that I found them. As soon as I saw them, I was just like, oh, that's coming home with me. Yeah. Another bead which we have here, or not bead, but shell, is cowrie shells. These are super popular. You can find them anywhere in the 18th century. They're super common in African culture, and they are a sign of fertility, wealth, prosperity, and protection. So you see these a lot in jewelry. And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere in the Boston Harbor, they found like hundreds of thousands of pounds of cowrie shells in like the wharfs and stuff, because they were just so common and used as packing peanuts, and they just threw them back into the water. So really cool stuff. Now, I also said I found a couple of paintings which I'm really excited about drawing some inspiration from, so I wanted to share those with you as well before we start crafting. In this next photo, you can see those silver earrings with a little bead, and so I'm really excited that I got evidence for more than one distinction of this, so I'm definitely gonna be using it. In this next photo with the woman with the black woman holding a baby, this one is, you can see all like the red was very common. So red coral was used as an amulet for like protection and status in a lot of colonial societies, but they were also used as a form of currency in the Atlantic slave trade. Red coral was used as payment in many different African countries for enslaved people, but most notably in the Kingdom of Benin. And of course, as time went on, it becomes a status of wealth and prosperity and all these things in a lot of the colonial societies. So of course it grows and develops over time, but you can see it depicted in so many different paintings. It's absolutely incredible. So let's get creative, and I'm gonna start laying things out, and I'll show you what I come up with. Okay, so we're about halfway through right now, and I finished a few pieces and I wanted to show them to you. So first we have a couple of bracelets, and I am so happy with these, using the cowrie shells and those black beads and then the coral and the blue. I am so happy with how it's turning out. And then of course we have this necklace, which I am super happy it turned out, and then these beads that I was talking about that are pretty much exact replicas. Super happy with that one. And then we just have this red coral necklace that is super simple, easy, lovely. So I have a couple more things I want to make. And I discovered a few things along the way. I was using silk thread for a while, and I was also using my woven hemp cord. Actually, it's hemp cord. But I discovered when using the silk cord, in my head it made sense, but I'm not going to be there with this jewelry, so I want to make sure it's secure as possible. So I moved on to wire cording, and this has been a lot more sturdy in my opinion. So I'm happy with how it's all turning out, and I will come back with the end results for you guys, and I can't wait to show you. Okay, so we finished necklaces and bracelets. I just made this cute little cowrie shell necklace, which is just 3 little cowrie shells, no problem. Super simple. And then I made this stone and jade bracelet, which I'm really, really happy with. So yay, that's all of the necklaces. I'm moving on to earrings. So like we were talking about before, there's like things called stone bobs and stuff like that. So I'm just doing a couple of different iterations of that. And I'm doing some little hanging bead wire earrings, which I'm really, really happy with. They're just so cute and simple. I'm going to do it in a black bead as well. And then I'm also going to do it keeping in mind the Runaway ad that we talked about before with the blue and white stone. I found a blue and white stone that I really, really wanted to use, but unfortunately it would take too long to ship. So I found these instead, and while they're not perfect and they're kind of, they're towing the line a little bit on authenticity, I'm still gonna make them because, you know, that's okay. And I'll order the blue and white stones for myself and it will be perfect. So the earrings are super simple. They just come in these wires, and then I just put on the bead, slipped, super simple and easy. Then I need to crimp the end there and fold it back, get that little 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to take the other side here and just kind of twist it so it's just facing a little bit more. And then you can just slide it in, and then you have an earring. Okay, so now that the stone earrings are done, I'm gonna have my last pair of earrings I'm gonna make that are going to be those little beaded earrings with the little rings. So I'm really excited about making that. So for these little silver ring earrings, I got these little backs with like the stud and then a tiny little hole, so I'm gonna see if I can work with that. Okay, so I am done. I finished all the earrings. I finished all of the bracelets and necklaces. Some of them have like these sliding knot ties that are super simple and adjustable. Some of them have just like these bow ties. I just wanted to make sure that everything was super accessible and easy to use so it can fit a multitude of sizes. This has been a really super fun and wonderful project. It's been really cool looking at all these different runaway ads and doing a lot of research on this. It's really incredible the amount of people that you see, enslaved people that you see, still trying to represent their culture and keep their heritage close, despite the hardships that were bestowed upon them. So I'm just so honored that I was able to bring these pieces to life, and I cannot wait to see them on the bodies, on people. And yeah, I'm really proud. I'm gonna get dressed in some of my 18th century clothes so you can see what the pieces look like on, and then we will close out. So yeah. Okay, friends, that is it. I hope you really enjoyed today's video. I am just so happy I got to do this project, but also got to bring you guys along with me. I hope that you love the video. Please like and subscribe, share if you like, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here, and have a fantastic day.